This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we do encourage you to like and share them on Facebook and social media because it's time for Joanne's World of Nutrition, presented each week by Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce and hosted by Joanne Seeger.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful morning. I am so excited about today. I'm sorry I missed my audience the last 2 weeks, but I'm not sure if the show announced it or not. But my brother did pass away, so I left here suddenly during a show, and unfortunately, he didn't make it. So
Dr. Robbie did a wonderful job last week.
did he fill
It's
in
up
well?
on the YouTube already.
Well, we are keeping up the whole alphabetical theme of the year. And so we were on the bees. So I was like, all right, let me do a show about bacteria and probiotics. And then I said, who do I want to have on? So one of my favorite lines in the store is Probulen. And they make an excellent line of not only probiotics that you take internally, but great skincare. And their training specialist was able to join us for this conversation. And a friend of mine for many, many years. Wow, I think we go back over 10 years. No, actually, my son is 17. Oh my God, Buddy, I think it's like 17 years. All right, is Buddy. Hey, Buddy, how are you?
Good morning, Joanne, and my condolences. I didn't know about your brother passing, so
you.
my condolences to
Thank
you and
you
the family.
very much. Yes, think I'm still a little bit in shock. So yeah, we're just gonna go right on through that conversation. Buddy, how do you pronounce your last name?
So I don't get asked that often, but I offer it up anyway. And it's think of the girl's name Heather, put an O
Okay.
in front of it, and take the R off at the end. So basically, you have Ojeda, and
Oh,
it's
Heather.
Ojeda. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Of
because
Puerto Rican descent. My
as
mom
a
and
New
dad are from Puerto
Yorker,
Rico.
my R's are always messed up to begin with. So now you're giving me a tongue twister here.
No,
Now,
I'm from the Bronx, so I understand. I get you.
Buddy, do you recall how long we've known each other?
So it's been, I think, I've been in the industry since 1996. I worked at a health food store in Plantation, Florida. And in 2000, I became an educator for a company, and you were working on the opposite end of the state. You were working in Tampa, in the Tampa area. And I think that's when I started to first visit the stores. And so 20 some odd years?
Wow, that's
Crazy,
incredible. All
crazy.
right. Well, I miss you. I'm so glad I have you on the
Same here.
Zoom screen. And all right, so are you still living in the East Florida area?
No, actually, now I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we love it. I've got my wife of many years. I've got my 16-year-old son, and we just love Charlotte. It's really a nice area. You have the four seasons. Yesterday was 73, and yet 2 days before it was 34. So, I mean, that's just the way it is in Charlotte.
Yeah,
But it's a
it does
nice
seem
place.
like
We've been here.
everyone's pushing up like the Floridians, we're kind of going towards the Georgia and Carolinas just to get a little change of season.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, it's so good to see you and talk to you. And, you are working with our buddy Jason, which he's been on the show a couple times before, but it's been a while. So you can refresh our audience, or hopefully there's newbies listening. So welcome newbies to the show. We usually do a breathing exercise to begin the show. Would you like to join us with that?
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, so if we have newbies, once again, welcome to the show. We're going to do a quick breathing exercise just to get us calm and focused and make sure we're getting in as much oxygen as we can. So let's exhale out any stressors, anxiety, any thoughts of, manicness, and let's give a good exhale. And then we're going to do just 2 rounds today because I want to get right back to Buddy in the conversation.
Okay. All right.
All right, so exhale, and then we're going to breathe in only using our nose for 5, hold for 5, and exhale using our nose for 5. All right, everyone, exhale.
And now begin your nasal internal 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5. Release slowly 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Not that anyone is suffering from any stress or anxiety right now, but I hope that helped.
It can do a lot of good. Even when I'm doing the guide part, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily do that while I speak at the
Right.
same time, but it relaxes
But
me,
it's meditative as well. So,
puts you in the mode.
all right. So now, buddy, you are new to our listening audience. So can you just give us a little background for my listeners to see how your journey has brought you to this conversation today?
Sure. I've always been interested in health and wellness. I never wanted to be a doctor, but I remember listening many years ago to a station in South Florida in the Boca Raton area that was all about health and wellness, and they had all these herbalists and acupuncturists and nutritionists, and it just intrigued me how we can have a positive influence over our bodies through diet, through stress mitigation, through supplementation, taking herbal products. And it just intrigued me that, wow, I have this power. I can literally, if I've got some issues, not that it's a substitute for medication. In some cases, medication is absolutely needed, but I can actually do a lot with exercise and meditation and like you just did, supplementation. And so that intrigued me. And I ended up working at a store, which was a privately held store in the Plantation, Florida area. So think of Fort Lauderdale, but west of Fort Lauderdale. And that soon got taken over by a chain. If I mentioned the name, you would know it. And it just evolved. My understanding of supplements, my understanding of what to take when, and any contraindications. And I just got involved to the point where I said, I'd like to learn more. And I embarked on a course of study. It took me 3 years to become a certified nutritionist. So I never intended to hang a shingle and have patients, but I wanted to know more. And that, of course, led to, when you open one door, other doors open. And that led to an opportunity as an educator with a company. And since then, that was in 2000. And since then, I have been an educator for several companies, some of which, major companies. And I've learned about traditional Chinese medicine. I've learned about whole food supplements. I've learned about essential fatty acids. And of course, now, I love being with Probulen. It is a unique company in a sense that we talk about it in terms of the next generation of probiotics. Not to say that we're the only ones that work, but we have a unique delivery system that allows the probiotics to survive, and thus they do work. We've expanded into some skincare with probiotics. I know that you want to talk about. And Jason Mitchell, the gentleman you just talked about that's been on your show, he's a rock star in this industry, and yet he's very humble. He was the chief science officer for another major company for about 16, 18 years. He's a master formulator. So to be alongside him and to learn from him, even though I've got 20 some odd years of experience, it's to me, it's awesome. And so I get to do this stuff. I get to hang out with folks like you. I do, in-store trainings. Sometimes I do consumer lectures, less so these days because of COVID, but yeah, it's fun. And to me, it's, if someone says, okay, I need you to research a certain thing, I'm like, okay, let's dive in, because I love learning. And to me, my mantra is, I want to know how a watch is made so that I can explain to you what time it is, right? So people, like most customers, I'm sure in your store, they kind of want to know, okay, what is this? Any contraindications? How many do I have to take? How much is it going to cost? And what's it going to do for me? And that's about all that they really need to know most times. I want to go deeper, and so that I have provide a wider array, more context to the conversation. But that's just me. It's the educator in me and the communicator in me. But that's that. And so here we are today.
I love it. That's a great explanation. And I think that's why you and I have always got along, because we do believe that, the body acts as one always. And we cannot just like separate out systems or organs and expect everything to go well. We have to treat it as one. And that's why when it came to the letter B, and like I was thinking, oh my gosh, bacteria finally is getting some of the accolades that it deserves. I mean, it's, now people are constantly saying about gut health and microdome. Like my daughter had to go in for a surgery, and it was a simple surgery, but the doctor, in the best intentions, said, "Oh, make sure you give her, some yogurt so she gets some good bacteria." Little did he know I wasn't going to give her the antibiotics, but it's really at least they're saying they're conversing about it, so we've come a long way. So how about we start with this? Like, I know Jason and I go so far back, and as far as the idea of bacteria in general, like how did he decide on the ones he decided upon, and how do they survive? Because I know most people are concerned, and I've said many times in the show, it's not about what you buy, it's about what survives in your body and actually gets utilized. So maybe start there, buddy, with why Probulen probiotics are unique in general.
Yeah, and I get this question, very similar question a lot. What makes you guys different? The Probulen line of probiotics. What makes you guys different? And the thing about it is, so you can focus in, and some people do, on numbers, right? Because as a consumer, and we're all consumers, I'm a consumer, if a little bit is good, then a lot has got to be better. And that just isn't borne out by the science when it comes to probiotics. It just isn't. If you take, so probiotics are measured in what they call CFUs, colony forming units. Essentially, it's similar to milligrams, but not quite, because probiotics are not vitamins or minerals or antioxidants that you absorb into the bloodstream. They are microorganisms, living microorganisms that inhabit our, actually all over our body, our skin certainly, but our nose, our ears, our mouths, digestive tract. And you would think, okay, that's easy, right? I see something that says 20 billion, 50 billion CFUs, 100 billion. 100 billion's got to be better than 20. And since they survive, okay, but they don't. That's the thing. They've got to go through this gauntlet of stomach acid, which it can be really hazardous. An empty stomach without any food for several hours, the pH in the stomach is approximately around 1.5. And so, not to get too chemistry sounding here, but that whole scale that we learned in high school of 0 to 14, where 7 is neutral. Anything below that number 7 becomes more and more acidic. So 5 is more acidic than 7. 3 is more acidic than 5. Imagine the pH of 1.5. That's super hyper acidic. So how do you put in a probiotic supplement, let's say, and survive? Well, some companies use enteric coating. Other companies use what they call hardier strains, acid resistant strains. But nevertheless, there's always a die-off. And that's just one obstacle. Then it's the activation in the small intestine. It's like, how do they activate? And it's not an easy process. It's not just like, okay, they just wake up simply because you ingested them. They need moisture, and there's a process that goes on. Water diffuses inside the cell sort of wakes up, and then it needs food, right? So you need to feed it pretty quickly. If you take a probiotic without a meal, you need some sort of what they call a prebiotic, some sort of food, a little snack in there for the probiotics to munch on until that next meal comes through the next 3 or 4 hours. But so the idea of more is better is not founded on any science. The other thing that some people get stuck on is specific, what they call strains. Best way to describe that is, so you hear about Lactobacillus acidophilus, and I think some people, not all, say, okay, that's one bacteria. Actually, it's not. There are several strains underneath that family of Lactobacillus acidophilus, kind of like, if you think about, so Lactobacillus acidophilus is a species, kind of like canine is a species, but within the canine species, you have a domesticated dog, like a poodle, and you also have a wolf. They're still canines. One is going to do one thing, like, you might be there, they might be your prey. Right, exactly. You might be their next meal. The other one is going to sit on the couch with you and lick your face. And so the whole idea that the benefits of beneficial bacteria, supplementation, whether it's in fermented foods, which is the ideal way to get your beneficial bacteria, but if you supplement, it's the strains that matter. So some people get fixated on, oh, this strain I heard about is good for this thing, or this strain I heard about is good for that. All of that is important and does matter. But as you just alluded to, Joanne, it's about survivability, because if they don't survive, and I'm not saying that there is any strain that cures cancer, but if there were a strain, if it doesn't survive, it's of no value to you. And so customers will buy probiotics mostly on high CFUs or specific strains that they're looking for, and never even think about, oh, wait a minute, do these survive? And will I get a benefit? And so with Probulen, Dr. Jason Mitchell, naturopathic physician, he said, look, I don't want to do another Me Too product. I want to do something that is scientifically based as far as specific strains of bacteria to, yes, support women's health or colon support, things of that nature. But I also want to make sure they survive. So we have a unique delivery system. It's got a couple of patents on it. It's called MAC-Track 3D. You think of 3D, think of the 3 layers of defense. So acid protection, activation, prebiotic, feeding. And because of that, the studies that we've conducted against other leading brands, not to say that we're the only one that works, because other brands do work, absolutely. It's just that we want to maximize on the survivability. And because of that, then we get efficacious results. 8 out of 10 individuals who buy a Probulen probiotic tend to buy it again. And it's not because, we've got nice packaging. It's because it works. People like it. It works.
And it's very affordable for what you get as well. And I do like that Jason is still taking the time with his company to get it shipped cold. There are companies that are taking shortcuts now or selling from big, mass online sources that keep it warm. So I do really like that he's trying his best to keep that integrity going.
Correct. Yeah, it's a shelf-stable formula. It's in a blister pack. It sits on the shelf. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. If you put it in the refrigerator, it's fine, but it doesn't have to. So that means it travels really well. But you're right. We ship cold, and especially because I used to live in Florida. It's on hot summer days, Florida, Texas, I think of Arizona. We ship with 2 or 3 ice packets, and then we seal it up. We insulate it with this blue jean material, which is the rating for the insulation is similar to styrofoam, but we don't use styrofoam because it's harmful for the environment. It doesn't break down very easily, right? So yeah, the thing that I like about Jason's thought process behind this is that he's looking beyond just simply, okay, what does the customer want? It's like he'll provide stuff that the customer doesn't even know they need and or want. And then it's, folks like me and our sales staff to then share that with the consumer base and saying, by the way, you should look for this. A probiotic is good. Strains is fine. CFUs is fine. With a prebiotic is better. With a delivery system, that's best. And oh, by the way, if you include something called a postbiotic, which we can talk about, that's the ultimate. And so it's always looking forward, not just doing a Me Too product. And the company's been around since 2011. So, 6-7 years, and we're doing really well. It's a blessing to be with a company like this.
Definitely. And I know he also, was cutting edge with the whole pre and postbiotic. So I definitely want you to go deeper into that conversation, as well as some people don't understand that he really went above and beyond, not using fillers and flow agents. And he chose that cutting edge technology using the Seaweed, delivery system. So maybe touch on why that is so unique.
Yeah, so the MAC-Track 3D delivery system, MAK actually stands for the names of the company, the folks that run the company that provide us the high quality probiotics. So Mark, Andrew, and Catherine. Andrew and Catherine are the dad and the mom, and Mark is one of their sons. And Mark is a microbiologist. He's a master formulator. And he and Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Jason, have been friends, almost like brothers from another mother, and they've known each other for years. And so when Jason started to think about, okay, I'm going to develop this line of probiotics, but I want it to be different. So Mark came up with, well, let's look at a delivery system that's natural, that we can scientifically base it on, that when compared to your typical probiotic can actually increase the survivability. And so it basically broke down into 3 aspects. It's protect, it's hydrate, it's feed. So protecting is that stomach acid issue, as I mentioned. If you drop a probiotic, even with a meal, a meal is better because the meal actually buffers the acidity in the stomach. But if you took it on an empty stomach, any probiotic, it's going to be in this acid bath. And whatever capsule it is, it's going to dissolve it, unless if it's an enteric-coated capsule, which will slowly dissolve it. But nevertheless, it's going to be exposed to this high level of acid, which means a lot will be lost. And so if you started out with, I'm just going to pick a number, but say 50 billion. If virtually 90% of that is lost, you've got so much less than you thought you did. And then that's just the first hurdle it has to go through. So what we do is we utilize something called a brown seaweed extract. And it's kind of like chia seeds in a sense. We don't use chia seeds, but the analogy is kind of like chia seeds. If you have dry chia seeds and you put them in a bowl of water, come back 20 minutes later, you notice it's got this gelatinous material around it, like this jelly-like material. It's kind of like the same way for the brown seaweed extract. It creates this film around the interior of the capsule. So for the vast majority of the probiotics, whether you're taking the daily care, which is 10 billion, or the women's health, which is 20 billion, the vast majority are protected simply because of the encasement. We talk about it affectionately as a seaweed submarine, kind of like the visual of a submarine. If it's, you have a hard exterior, but if you're inside the submarine, you're protected. There's no water seepage. So while it's in the stomach for 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, the vast majority are protected. Second hurdle it has to go through is activation. And so any probiotic that's in a pill or powder form, generally speaking, has been gently dehydrated. So the water's been taken out. And that makes it shelf stable, by the way. People ask, how do you make your probiotic shelf stable when I have to buy mine in the refrigerator? Well, you just gently take the water out. It's called freeze drying. You gently take the water out. And you put them in a state of dormancy, kind of like a hibernating bear, right? So it's breathing, the heart is beating, it's alive, it's just not active. What activates it is moisture. So when it comes in an environment of moisture, i.e. your small intestine, it says, oh, wait a minute. And so it starts to soak up the moisture, kind of like a dry sponge in a bowl of water. But unlike a dry sponge doesn't have a membrane. The probiotic cells do, kind of like a balloon has a membrane. And you start to fill up a balloon with water, it starts to expand. And then at some point, you sort of intuitively like, if I continue to fill this up, it's going to rupture. And oftentimes that's what happens. The inconsistency between the number of minerals inside this dehydrated cell versus the lack of minerals in the small intestine, especially if you didn't eat a meal, causes an oversaturation of that cell and they rupture. So it's not something it's talked about. I'm sure that for some listeners right now, they're like, I had never heard that before, but it's factual. It happens with any probiotic that's gone through the freeze drying process, which is the vast majority, actually. So what we do is we put electrolytes in our capsule, and the electrolytes allow for proper activation, kind of like if you're going on a walk or a jog, through South Florida, and you sweat, you can drink water, that's okay. But if you put some minerals in that water, electrolytes, calcium, potassium, sodium, you'll hydrate better, you'll hydrate faster. So we put that in there to properly hydrate it, so you have less of that rupturing. And then the feeding aspect is probiotics need to be fed. They replicate every 30 minutes, like 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. If there's no food, if you've been able to bypass the stomach, if you've been able to activate them correctly, but now there's no food for 3 or 4 hours, you're going to lose a lot. So we put a prebiotic. It happens to be inulin from chicory. Chicory is just one source, but you can use Jerusalem artichokes, asparagus, leeks, onions, garlic, all have inulin. And it's just this fiber that they love to munch on as like a little snack until that next meal comes through. So protect, hydrate, feed allows us to have more survive, and thus the efficacy is experienced. The outcomes are experienced.
And, just to make my listeners aware, these are very unique things that most companies do not do, so just to be clear that you really want to choose wisely when you're buying a probiotic. I always suggest do your homework, not only just look at their website, but dig deeper, who's the formulator, where are they, their delivery system, like Buddy just went over. We are going to do a quick break, but we are going to get right back into this conversation. And remember, you can call and ask us a question, 340-1590. Be right back. Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World, hoping that you visit my store and wellness center. We have incorporated cutting-edge services to help you feel better. Check out my online store at joannesnutritionworld.com. Really great deals and free shipping over $50. I am really hoping that all my listeners are taking time right now to get fresh air, to get exercise into their daily routine, keep hydrated, and get the proper amount of sleep. It's critical right now that attitude is everything. To please take time to laugh, to give yourself a break. You can find Nutrition World right on US 1 in Fort Pierce, across from Fort Pierce City Hall, in between Orange Avenue and Avenue A. Our phone number is 772-464-3598. Call me with any questions or concerns. All my best, Joanne.
Joanne's Nutrition World, now open from 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday. Call 464-3598.
Hey, it's Dr. Ravi at Tradition Family Chiropractic. We are dedicated to serving you and your family with integrity, compassion, and innovative care through the most advanced chiropractic care ever in chiropractic history, encouraging your health and your family's health to its maximum potential on a regular basis. Call us today at 772-345-0060 or schedule online at traditionhealth.com for your free consultation.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
And now we return to Joanne's World of Nutrition. Once again, along with her guest, here's Joanne Seeger.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are discussing probiotics, particularly the company called Probulen, Probulin. And we have their national educator, Buddy, on the line with us. I just noticed, Buddy, your Zoom screen, your backdrop moves. So that palm tree looks very nice swaying in the wind.
Well, I wanted to match, I mean, I live in Charlotte. I wanted to match the ambiance of what likely might be experienced in Florida right now. And you've got a great background yourself.
Yeah, but
So
my palm trees don't move behind
I
me.
got you.
I'm not getting no nice breeze.
I got you. I got you. I understand. I just wanted to be in sync with what's going on in Florida and with what's going on there in the studio,
Well,
but
you
I got
did
you.
well. I'm actually craving to go to the beach now, watching that backdrop. Well, we have a caller, Buddy. Let's see what the question is. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. Do you have a question for us?
I do. You know, for the last few weeks, I've had a lot of discomfort in my stomach, and I've had acid reflux for a couple of years, but I've had a lot of, I would just say, discomfort and just like bloating and gas, just a lot of discomfort in my stomach. So I went to a doctor, one of those doctors, and they wanted to put that tube down my throat and check out my gut. And I also have a hernia in my stomach. And they said if it doesn't cause pain, that I shouldn't get it operated on. So I've just, in the last couple of weeks, it's been really upset, and I've been taking Tums and things like that. But I just want to know what else I might be able to do with it, with herbs and things.
Okay, Dan, that's a great question. Well, if you want to go off air, we will go into that subject because I know you're not alone in that discomfort. So Buddy and I will discuss it and hopefully give you some solutions. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for calling. All right, Buddy. Well, I know you and I both know that he's not alone in that. That's a pretty common thing. Most Americans, either acid reflux, stomach bloating. So this is a perfect question for this category, right? You want to address it?
Sure. With the caveat that as a certified nutritionist that is, representing a company, I can't speak to any one of our products saying, hey, this is going to address your issue. However, generally speaking, when you say your stomach, is it really your stomach or is it more in the lower intestine? Because, yeah, it does happen that over time, it's not that when you get acid reflux, sometimes people think it's an overproduction of acid, hydrochloric acid. And often it's more of a structural issue. It's the sphincter, it's the muscle between your esophagus and your stomach that relaxes. And unfortunately, just as we are all getting older every single day, things start to not work as well as they used to. You know, you could eat nails, let's say, figuratively, when you were 20, and now you can't. You can barely eat toast with almond butter on it. The whole idea is, if it is truly acid reflux, it tends to be more that the muscle itself, the sphincter, opens up. Now, there's certain foods that promote that. Spicy foods will do that, sometimes mint, sometimes coffee. So if you're consuming that with your meal, you're likely to get more of that acid reflux. What I have found, I don't have the issue, but what I have found anecdotally is something called mastic gum that seems to help with sort of that acid reflux concern. I'm not sure how quickly it works, but it's been around for a while. So if that's the issue, you need to sort of, and you can Google this, just stay away from foods that would typically promote or exacerbate the acid reflux issue, because it's not that you're producing more acid. It's likely sometimes you're producing less acid. And then the problem is, and this is not to go down the medical route, but the thing is, okay, I think I'm producing more acid. I need to get an acid blocker or an antacid. And then the problem is that now you're interfering with the digestive process, and that can lead to long-term issues where you don't metabolize or break down minerals, absorb minerals, you don't break down proteins properly, and that can lead to a whole host of other issues. So rarely is it that you need something to block the acid production. What you need is making sure that that sphincter doesn't open up as readily, doesn't relax as readily. And some foods, like I mentioned, fried foods, peppermint, things like that, spicy foods, tend to promote that. But in the meantime, you can try this mastic gum. If it's further down, if it's in the small intestine and you get the gas, the bloat, you ate at noon and here it is 4 o'clock and you still feel like the food is there, that may be more of a digestive enzyme issue versus then a probiotic. So taking a good multi or broad spectrum digestive enzyme, plant-based would be best, but one that breaks down carbs and fats and proteins and cellulose, those can go a long way to reducing that discomfort and that sense of feeling full. And that's where I would start, those two things. Obviously, probiotics are ideal, especially in the lower intestine. It's not that probiotics should only be taken when there's an issue. It really should be that probiotics should be part of your regimen. If you consume fermented foods, that's awesome. That's the best way. If you don't consume a lot of those fermented foods, kefir, kombucha, I think of kimchi, exactly. Then a good probiotic that has a delivery system to deliver more would be your next best choice. But that's the order, the chronology of where I would address this issue, and then go slowly. Don't, you just said you have an issue. I love pizza. Pizza doesn't always love me. So I wouldn't go this Friday out and have chicken wings and pizza if you're having the issue. I would start slowly and then build up to that level if you can.
Great suggestions, buddy. And also too, Dan, at my store, I give a really awesome pamphlet. It's like 4 pages long, easy reading though, on digestion and, stopping that discomfort. So I would definitely pop in the store to check that out. That's a free giveaway. And we have another caller too, but I want to mention one thing real quick. A lot of people think probiotics are only suited for after they take an antibiotic, and most people don't give them thought until that time. But in our entire food supply, we have glyphosate. It's in our water and it's in our food supply, and that works like like an antibiotic. So when you're constantly every day eating and drinking things that are, sterilizing your intestinal tract and not letting your good bacteria flourish, you do need good bacteria on a daily basis. Please don't wait until you take an antibiotic. You want to really keep up your defense system by doing it daily. All right, buddy, another call. This is great. This is a compliment to you, buddy. Sometimes we don't have any callers. So good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Joanne, and condolences there on your brother. I know having recently suffered loss and everything, I can sympathize. So my condolences with you. I had a question here regarding when my dad was alive some time ago with health issues, and he had IBS. They mentioned the probiotics, and he had gotten at the time a probiotic that they say was supposed to help, I guess, with a shell that keeps the medicine itself, the stomach acids from affecting it there. But I was just curious because I've been reading, also researching a little bit, where, like they say, sometimes too much is not good when they talk about the contents. But are the over-the-counter probiotics really of any benefit, or is it better what they offer? Say, I don't mean just through the health food store, or what the gentleman you were speaking about, because there's a lot I'm not really sure, and they just said, okay, take this, but then you wonder as an uneducated person in the nutrition, is something like an over-the-counter, beneficial for your system?
Okay, John, that is an excellent question. I'm glad you brought it up. So Buddy and I will definitely answer that if you can kind of just go offline and just hear the reply.
Sure.
And we would love.
Okay, yeah,
Thanks
thanks,
so
Joanne.
much, John. Have a great day. All right, Buddy. Well, you had touched on it earlier, but like I mentioned, it does matter, where you're getting your probiotics from. And you did say there are good companies out there. Probulen is definitely one of my favorites. I only sell 4 brands in my store, and that's because I only sell brands that I would give to myself or my children. So any other advice for John, like as far as when he's choosing his probiotics?
Yeah, so it sounded like a couple of different questions there real quickly. So when he talked about the shell, that's called enteric coating. If you've heard of enteric coated aspirin, it's so that it doesn't break down in the stomach, because, aspirin for some people can be caustic, it can be irritating, but you want it to break down in the small intestine for it to be absorbed. When you're trying to protect probiotics from stomach acid, some companies will make the shell out of something that doesn't readily break down in the stomach. Now, it may be slowly breaking down, but just not as fast as a typical vegetarian capsule like ours, right? Ours breaks down right away, but then we have that brown seaweed extract to encase it immediately. The thing about that, John, is that enteric coating, in many cases, not in all, contains chemicals you don't want to ingest on a regular basis. Could be the phthalates, it could be plasticizers, essentially chemicals found in plastics. And it's the reason why it stays hard, right? So either they spray it with these chemicals or they make the capsule out of the chemicals. So in the short run, it's like, okay, at least, there's some survivability. The problem is you're also ingesting these chemicals, and it's not the most natural way. It's not the worst, but it's not the most natural way. When you talk about, it's too much, not good, you're absolutely right. Not that it's going to be harmful to you, but here's the thing. It's really interesting about this. If you typically take something that has, let's say, 20 billion CFUs, colony forming units, maybe 10 billion, right? Something on the lower side. And because you saw it on sale for $3 more, 100 billion. So you think, okay, 20 billion, 100 billion, that's 5 times more. It's got to be 5 times better. It doesn't mean that you get 5 times better survivability. Remember, these are not absorption issues. This is survivability. So imagine putting that much more into this delicate system that is our digestive tract. It's not just a tunnel that you just put stuff in. It's a very delicate, it has a fine balance to it. And if you put all this stuff in there at once, a lot of it will not survive. Those that die are going to create an immunological response. Like literally, you're going to feel like you're detoxing. So I've seen this, I've heard this. Individuals who go from that low level or medium, 10, 20 billion, which is sort of the average, like the range that most people can and should start at, to 50 or 100. And then 3, 4, 5 days later, they complain, I'm gassier than I was before. I've got diarrhea, I've got there's a disturbance in the force. And I'm like, I thought it was supposed to be better. Well, yes, but you took too much too quickly. Just like if you took fiber too much too quickly. So it's not that you're going to die from it, but you're going to feel like you're dying because it's not comfortable. So it's not about taking a high level. It's about taking the right amount that survive to get you to where you need to go when it comes to digestive health. And you said over the counter. If you mean at Joanne's store, absolutely. If you're talking about a big box store, I love them. I buy some commodities there, toilet tissue and all that. I wouldn't go shopping for probiotics at those kind of stores because they don't quite, there's no one there, first of all, to explain this to you, but also they tend to be on the lower end of quality, and maybe they don't do their due diligence in the testing and the, delivery system. And so, yeah, you get it at a cheaper price, but you don't get the efficacy you're looking for. And then, of course, what happens is you buy it, it doesn't work. You go, well, probiotics don't work. Well, they do, but you have to make sure you get the right one and the right potency with the right delivery system. And that's what you get at Joanne's store, Nutrition World.
Thank you, buddy. That is a perfect explanation. So I just want to touch a little bit more on the internal, but one thing that I really get excited about for today's show is for most of these years, I have not really promoted not one skincare line. As a female, that stuff, I always called it fluff. I was always a real hippie with just, some plain old soap or coconut oil. Never really got into the whole eye cream, day cream, night cream, cleansers. It just, to me, was just all a waste of money, pretty packaging with no real reason to use it. And especially it was always like either scented, even the natural ones had some type of fragrance, and it drove me nuts. And so much money.
Right.
So the fact that I really want to discuss it today kind of is like shocking to me, because I started with Jason kept sending me samples, and I was like, oh gosh, he is just wasting his time and money with me with sending me samples, But then I tried the cleanser and I fell in love with it. I wear mascara. That's pretty much as far as the makeup goes. And, and it's natural and it's hard to get off. And it was like dissolving it, and my skin was feeling better and better. And it was so easy to use, and it wasn't heavy, and it didn't have fragrance. So I started there. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try a little bit of the creams, and now I am hooked. I love the line. I just placed another good size order. So I just, if we can discuss why probiotics in a skincare line, and does it really matter? I would love for you to touch on that.
Right. And so remember, I mentioned a little bit earlier that we have thousands upon thousands, about 1,000 or so different types of beneficial bacteria on our skin, certainly, in our nose, in our ears, eyelids, and certainly in our digestive system. And the thing is that the skin, we don't think about this, but the skin is the largest immune organ of the body, and it's immunologically active. And any repair to the skin, any renewal of the skin involves the immune system. Like I said, I used to live in Florida. I love to go to the beach, go out there. If I didn't have my sunblock or sun protection, you get some sunburn, that's damage to the skin. How I get back to normal, how, a few days later, how the skin sort of heals itself and I don't have that redness or the peeling anymore, is because the immune system said, hey, wait a minute, there's some damage here. We need to repair buddy's skin because, he just wasn't careful in making sure that he was in the sun, but he was in the sun way too long. And by the way, I am an advocate of the sun. It's a great way to get vitamin D, but you can't just stay out there for hours upon hours without no protection. So, with the immune system is embedded in the skin, and it's involved in repair and renewal and its defenses. Once again, this is the brilliance of Probulen and Jason's thought process. Dr. Jason is, instead of just giving you extra stuff like collagen or hyaluronic acid, that's fine. Well, can we affect the immune system, the skin, without damaging it in the first place? Think about glycolic acid peels. Think about microdermabrasion. I mean, to me, that sounds horrid, like you're literally resurfacing your skin. And it's interesting, those who do that a lot, you notice the skin doesn't look the same. It's like this shiny, thin, it doesn't look natural. Anyway, that said, different story for a different show. But what they're doing is they're damaging the skin on some level, and then the immune system kicks in and ideally makes it better than it was. Kind of like if you break a bone, in that area you break a bone, and when it heals, and if it heals properly, it's actually stronger than it was before. So he says, okay, how can we initiate the immune system of the skin without damaging it? And so he went in search of research, found some research out of Germany about a strain of bacteria. It's called Lactococcus ferment lysate, long word for a lactic acid bacteria. It's used actually, it's very common in food production, cheeses, buttermilk, kefir. So it's not foreign to us. But this particular, and lysate, by the way, means not living, ruptured, not alive. For the skin, you don't have to have live bacteria. Internally, you do. So what the studies found is that when applied at a 3% solution, this Lactococcus ferment lysate, it actually stimulated renewal of the skin, like the turnover, the top layer shed faster, which was good. It increased the defenses of the skin. Embedded within each layer of the skin are proteins. They're called antimicrobial peptides, or AMPs for short. Think of them as sentinels. So if you have a sentinel in front of your door in your apartment or your house, you have protection. If you have 10 or 15 surrounding your house or apartment, you have even more protection. So in the skin, you have these sentinels, these AMPs, and it increased that. So less likely for you to have issues with any bacterial infestation or even toxins coming into the skin. And at the very bottom layer of the skin is this thing called the lipid barrier. Think of it as a foundation for a house. If you have cracks in your foundation, then the walls and the ceilings and the roof are just not going to be stable. And it could leak moisture. It can be opportunistic for microbes to get in. So what the study showed is increased renewal rates so that you shed faster, increased levels of those AMPs, and better functioning of this lipid barrier. And that's what this Lactococcus ferment lysate is, and that's what's in all the formulas. So what you're experiencing, Joanne, is not just something that we're masking. We're literally allowing your skin to work better simply because we're promoting, we're boosting the skin's ability to do that. It's called immunocompetence. So we're bolstering the immunocompetence of the skin to do exactly what it's supposed to do, just more efficiently with less effort.
Wow. Okay. That is a really great explanation. And I love it too, because, it, I don't know, just the way that it works to never feel dry or never feel heavy, like all the products, it's almost like that perfect combination. And I've, gotten gifts of like $100 creams, and they nowhere compared to what I feel about these creams. So,
Right.
and I do, for any of my listeners, I do have a small amount of samples that are still left at the store. So if you want to come try out a sample and a nice free brochure, please pop in and or give the line a try. Great stuff. All right, buddy, we made time for a couple more questions for you. So the biggest seller out of the Probulen line for me has become the Total Care Women's product, the UT one. Can you kind of use a few minutes to explain why Dr. Jason specifically made this one?
Yeah, it was intended to not treat a UTI, urinary tract infection, but to promote and create better functioning urinary tract system. So the bladder, the ureter, the urethra, the kidneys. And the thing about it is, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, but women tend to suffer from this more than men. And it has to do, of course, right? That's you guys already share a huge burden with other things. It has to do with the physiology, the anatomy of a woman. The urethra is shorter, and so it's less of a effort for bacteria to travel up into the urogenital area and cause issues like infections. But guys can get it too. If guys have prostate issues where they hold in their urine, they're not able to void completely, that can also cause some issues. So the thing about this is it's the Total Care. Contains probiotics, of course. It contains the prebiotic inulin. It has that MacDirect 3D delivery system, and it has this postbiotic component. Postbiotic is essentially the environment that the probiotics were created in, or were their environment where they munched on the food you gave them. By the way, we give them, it's the starter, the substrate as it's called, is organic fruits and veggies that we use, blueberries, raspberries, figs, kale, and beets. So they create these metabolites, these things that you and I benefit from. But then specifically, we looked at 4 strains that are known to, if you did a Google search, are known to support the urinary tract health of both men and women. And so it's put into this Total Care UT probiotic, and it's intended for those, like women, there at least one women once in their lifetime will tend to get a UTI. Of that, half of them will actually get recurring UTIs. And that can be an issue, because UTIs left untreated can cause damage to the kidneys, and you can end up in the hospital. So it's a serious condition. So as a responsible company, we don't say, hey, if you're in the throes of a UTI, just take our product for 10 days and you're cured. It's more about building the defenses of the urinary tract system so that maybe if you get 4 a year, maybe now you only get 1 a year. And that's the whole idea, but it can be taken every day by both men and women. Likely women are going to take it more than men. And it's designed for that specific purpose. Rhamnosus, fermentum, Reuteri, and there's another one that I can't think of that is part of the mix, the 4, in addition to other strains in there that support the urinary tract system to minimize the risk, right? To prevent the adhesion of some of this bacteria that can cause the issue. And it's something that's been doing really well. It's been out for about a year now, I believe. It's doing really well because apparently this issue is something that a lot of women, unfortunately, suffer from.
Yes, my husband's dad is a urologist, and he's been, it's a joke, but not a joke that he just tells women you're built wrong. But it's sad because especially older women, some of them have been suffering their whole lives with nothing but maybe another antibiotic course, which usually doesn't really help them.
Right.
So definitely females, if you're suffering, kind of put the cranberry back on the shelf. It's just a bunch of pasteurized sugar. So give something like this a try. I definitely think it's worth it. I think, buddy, we can sneak in one more item. We have 2 minutes left. How about colon support?
So the colon support, as the name denotes, is for the large intestine. So primarily the small intestine is where you find lactobacilli type of bacteria. And the large intestine, the colon, is more for bifidobacteria. Unfortunately, because of proximity, meaning it takes longer, it's a longer travel, right? A longer trek to get to the large intestine. Over time, especially as we get older, it's harder to repopulate that area. And unfortunately, bifidobacteria are really susceptible to dietary indiscretions, meaning processed foods, high sugar foods. And I'm not saying just a one-time, over a lifetime kind of thing, and even medications like antibiotics. So you see issues of constipation, diarrhea tends to occur more in the older demographic, in the senior set. It can happen in the 20-year-olds, certainly. But the idea is that to repopulate that, the colon support has a lot of bifidobacteria. And because we have the MAC tract delivery system, so more get through. And people who do have those issues of chronic constipation, sometimes it's diarrhea because they went on a trip, they came back, they caught a bug, and it's just not gone away. We can't speak to any inflammatory issues, but if I had a family member that had an issue like that, I would recommend the colon support because it's designed for lower colon support.
Thank you. It was so great to have this conversation with you this morning. You are definitely coming back on the show. I wish you and your family the best and have a blessed and beautiful week. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week. And next week, we'll be talking about something that starts with a C. Have a great one.
You've been listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition, presented by Nutrition World. Don't forget, Buddy Ojeda products, Probulen Products, are available at Joanne's Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce. By the way, this is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on Google Home, Alexa, and the TuneIn app on your smartphone. It's 11 o'clock.